With Bradley Holly taking the win last week at Phoenix, he secured his spot into the Championship 4 for the year-long championship and vaulted himself into third in the season championship, only 11 points back of championship leader Daniel Knight. As we roll into Miami tonight, will Knight get a win and move on to the championship for himself? Will Holly win again and further close the points gap? Or will one of the other year-long championship contenders rise to the challenge of these titans of the Truck Series? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 8 of the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series, sponsored by WEBB Hearing Centers, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Adam Lindgren, and joining me in the booth is the inimitable Chris Foby. Carrying all the stopwatches in the pits tonight is going to be ourselves, Chris and Adam. Our director tonight will be Sean Crackers Ambrose, and season cameras provided by the great Dougie Beard. Long the host of the final race on the NASCAR calendar, Miami is known for its gentle banks and technical style. To find out what makes this place special, let's take you down to our track guide.
The track boom of the 1990s in recovery after the devastating Hurricane Andrew brought this gem of a southern Florida track. It started out a bit rough. In 1995, the initial layout was like a smaller Indianapolis. It really didn't work. Slow, narrow, passing was near impossible, so they widened the track. That brought out a larger problem of crashing. They tore up the corners and made it into a traditional oval. Racing improved greatly, and in 2002, NASCAR moved all of their top-tier series finales to South Florida, and they would stay there for 17 years. Each end of the racetrack produces multi-group racing and passing opportunities. The approach to turns 1 and 2 has produced numerous race-changing moments over the years, as it just invites you to make a move. You hit that 18 to 20 degree progressively banked corner, and it becomes a matter of who can get it back on the gas faster as you hit the backstretch and the row of palm trees that awaits you. Turns 3 and 4 are just as multi-grooved, although a few small bumps in the low lane make the high line just a little more appealing. Even then, guys will use that low lane for a challenge that could last all the way to the checkered flag. Nowadays, Homestead's biggest customers on the oval are NASCAR vehicles. The trucks, B-Class, and Cup cars all make trips here and put on fantastic shows. USAC Silver Crowns raced here as well, and that often shows up on iRacing's official calendar for that car. Welcome to Homestead-Miami Speedway, where the racing action is just as hot as those South Miami beaches.
You saw a couple laps that get very close to these powder blue walls here. But Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit more about how these trucks are going to handle Miami's banks today?
Well, like a lot of the mile-and-a-half tracks we've seen this season, Adam, it's going to probably be a little bit of a drafting race, which has made for some exciting events so far this season. Also, the progressive banking here at Homestead, as they mentioned in the track guide, allows for several different racing grooves. You can see the different areas where the track has started to rubber in. These drivers have a lot of different opportunities to choose which route they want to take around this track, and each has their own pros and cons. So look for a lot of passing opportunities through the corners, and look for turns 2 and turns 4 to be pretty essential to making this track work.
Another thing that's very essential is your hearing, and for help with that in Arizona, we recommend WEBB Hearing Centers. They are family-owned and operated since 1972, and they offer top-quality hearing aids and service in Arizona. Visit them at webhearingcenters.com. That is web with 2 B's, hearingcenters.com.
And, of course, our league sponsor, the ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Visit thebuttkicker.com today to view their full line of products.
As practice continues on, we're going to take a look at our Drivers' Championship for the season-long championship. They do 4 of these per year, and this season, currently, Daniel Knight leads by only 7 points over Thomas Sink. Bradley Holly, however, has jumped his way up to third with that win last week, and it's only 11 points back of the lead right now, so very tight between them. Richard Regan Jr. doing a great job as well, only 15 points back of the lead, and then Mark Kalin quite a bit back, actually. He's about another 16 points back of Richard Regan Jr., but those top 4 drivers, any one of them could take the championship still with these last 3 rounds to go, so things getting very intense up there for the season-long championship. But Chris, you have the teams for us.
That's right. The team's championship is pretty tight up at the top as well, Adam. The two quarterback squads, Jelly Rolls Racing leading, and just 4 points back is that back row racing team. So it is a very tight battle for the top spot in the team's race. The Riding Shotgun Outlaws are hanging out in third, kind of on an island, 59 points out of the lead, but another 31-point margin between themselves and the Ballistic Union in fourth place. And then the Rescue Racing Squad 3, just 9 points out of fourth. So that battle not sewed up yet as well.
Now, I know all of you are very interested to see what the developments are in the Webb Hearing Center's Precision Racing League 2020 Wednesday Truck Playoff Championship. And there we have it on the screen right now. As you can see, Brett Adams' bad day last week at Phoenix has left him on the bottom of the pile. He and Austin Hunter most likely in must-win scenarios going into these last two rounds in order to make it into the Championship 4. Charles Sumner is very close to that, but he's definitely still within a shout of Colton Lane at this time. Brandon Walter only 7 points back. Colton Lane is on the cut line, so he's going to try and make sure to try and stay ahead of Brandon Walter this race. Thomas Sink and Daniel Knight are currently battling for the top two spots. They're going to follow Bradley Holly in, and they're pretty safe, and they're only separated by 1 point, but really both of them are looking for wins at this point as well in order to secure their spot to the Championship 4, but they're almost mathematically in it as well. So it's going to be very interesting as we go into this round and also Darlington next week to see how that Championship 4 ends up playing out. All right, Chris, you've got the race details for us, though.
That's right. 85 laps is the distance here. This is the 8th of 10 rounds for the PRL Truck Series. They have the 3 spare sets of tires down in the pit area, which means, including the one that they're starting on, that's 4 tires to ration for the distance of this race. It is a fixed setup, so these drivers are on a level playing field as far as that goes. And then the 24 incident cap, hopefully nothing we have to deal with today, but it is something to keep in mind if things start to get a little aggressive out there.
Practice still going on track right now. 2.5 minutes left in it, and things getting actually very intense in practice. They're doing 4 and 5 wide. Not really working out for them, unfortunately, as we're seeing there on screen. But this is just practice, so they are really trying to push it and see what they can get away with here. Right now, Abner Acosta at the top of the leaderboards, tied on time to the 1,000th with Austin Hunter. But remember that this is in the draft in practice, so when we get into qualifying, things are going to get very interesting. Another interesting thing to note, Chris, is that the setup looks very tight for these drivers today. So how is that going to affect what they're going to want to do in qualifying?
Well, as far as qualifying goes, we may see the drivers run a little bit higher up on the track to have a little more room to play with the wheel. Look for these guys to probably be trying a lot of things right now in practice to see what makes the truck feel comfortable. And even though it won't be in the draft, there is some of that information that you can transfer over. And this is a fixed setup, so everybody's racing with the same setup. So the difference is going to really be in how the driver approaches the track. And a track like this with the multiple racing grooves really gives these drivers a chance to experiment and see what's fast and what's not.
And Chris, how important is tire saving going to be if we get into any sort of long run scenarios here?
Well, you mentioned the tight setup, and when a truck is tight, you have to put in even more steering input to make it do the simple things, and that extra steering input really wears out the tires faster. You add into that it is Florida asphalt that these guys are racing on, and it's the Florida sun as well, so these tires are going to be degrading really fast. So if we get into a long run, look for the drivers that are running higher up on the track and the drivers that didn't push their tires earlier on in the run to really thrive at the end of it.
Still 30 seconds left in practice right now. Bradley Holly currently third on the charts. He won last week, so he's secured to that championship 4 for the year-long championship. So he really doesn't have that much to worry about tonight. But remember, he's still hunting for that season-long championship, and being 11 points out of the lead, he's definitely going to be playing it a little bit conservative tonight, trying to get as many points as possible. But Bradley Holly, very used to winning out here, he's definitely going to be trying to make some passes and make some moves. We're watching Thomas Sink on the inside of Kenny Rodriguez right now. Thomas Sink, he hasn't had the greatest success as far as wins are concerned this season, but he's definitely had some good success when it comes to getting those points in. So he's definitely in contention for that round of 4, but unless the championship 4, but unless he can get some wins going into the rest of these races, he's probably looking at coming in second or third behind either Bradley Holly or Daniel Knight. But we are now into qualifying. Track temperature sitting at a pretty decent 82 right now, 78 degrees Fahrenheit as far as the weather conditions in the air are concerned. 55% humidity is actually fairly low for Florida, so these drivers not dealing with too much humidity out there for them. But we do have a couple drivers out on track. Austin Hunter, Patrick Cowgill as usual, Barron Hilton, and Doug Evans starting to get off the pit lane as well.
It's funny, we have pretty much the same group of guys that are always the first ones out on track. And you got to respect their readiness to get right out there and put a lap in. Sometimes it is more beneficial to wait, but these guys don't want to just sit on pit road and watch times click in. They want to be out there and putting laps in.
In-sim date is 10 days from now, so the 21st of November, so that's why we're seeing the milder temperatures out there. Patrick Cowgill, as usual, one of the first drivers to start a flying lap. Lots of these drivers, though, as I'm watching, are having real troubles on exiting turns 1 and 2 with hitting the outside wall. So keep that in mind. We might have some drivers who don't set some times around here or set slower times than we're used to because of the push coming out of these corners. But here comes Patrick Cowgill around to set his first time lap.
Yeah, and with this setup being so tight for these drivers, we mentioned turns 2 and turns 4. When the truck comes out of the banking and has to settle in for the run down the straightaway, that's going to be essential to these lap times because that push out of the corner could send you into the wall or could completely wreck your exit and totally change how you carry speed down the straightaway.
Austin Hunter currently at the top of the charts, followed by Doug Evans, who just set the time into second place. Colton Lane goes up to the top of the charts now at the fastest lap of 32.677. Stacy Hunter, not the quickest lap ever, a 33.954. That's only going to be good enough for 9th place currently. Austin Hunter finishing his second lap is going to be good enough for 3rd position, provisionally on track right now. Here comes Brendan Chatley around to set his first time lap. Looks like he's getting a little bit tight snap loose off of the corner, but crosses the line with a 32.660. That's good enough for 2nd position provisionally.
Jose Medina dropping a lap on the track as well.
Abner Acosta goes to the top of the charts now with the top time of a 32.6 flat. Blaine Adams coming across the line to start his fastest lap. Zemke trying to set a faster lap than a 33 flat. He has a 32.8. That's going to be good enough for 10th position currently on track. Thomas Sink, though, starting his first flying lap, one of our top contenders in the championship, just starting to go. Bradley Hawley out there as well, starting his first time lap.
And looks like pretty consistent times for Abner Acosta there. He sits on top of the charts with 32.6. Very fast times. We see, looks like Blaine Adams on track now.
Here comes Daniel Knight off of the final corner. Let's see what kind of a time he puts in. He's actually starting his first flying lap. But Bradley Hawley on his first flying lap goes to 3rd. Thomas Sink, a 33.357. Very slow for Thomas. That's going to put him down in 17th position. So we'll see whether or not he can get a better, faster second lap. A 32.661 is good enough for 5th for Brett Adams. These times are very tight together. Looks like Ryan Traver just starting off on the bottom of the track, but Bradley Hawley coming through 3 and 4, and so is Brandon Sells trying to improve from that 18th position right now.
It is amazing how tight this field is right now, Adam.
Oh, Daniel Knight up to the pole with the fastest time. Bradley Hawley's second time was not faster. He's currently in 5th and dropping. Adam Shane coming across the line with a 32.837. That's only going to be good enough for 19th, believe it or not. So the whole field very separate. Like you said, separated by nearly just a couple of tenths most of the field here. Here comes Mark Kalin around the corner. Daniel Knight, that was his first timed lap, and it goes to pole. Mark Kalin, a 32.822. That's only going to be good enough for 19th right now. Daniel Knight crosses the line again, goes about a 10th slower, but still sitting in provisional pole.
Also during that slew of laps, Thomas Sink was able to put his fast lap in. It was a 32.626. That's good for 4th quick so far.
So here's Mark Kalin rounding through turns 3 and 4, trying to improve upon his 32.822. If he could do so, that'll move him up some decent positions. Currently sitting in the 20th position. He crosses the line, and it's not faster, unfortunately. So Ryan Traver looks like he's going to be the last to cross the line with a decent time. He crosses the line with a 33.185, and I think Mike Richter made it across as well. No, he did not, so that will round out your field. So going to the grid, we have Daniel Knight with the pole. Alongside him is going to be Abner Acosta. His consistency continues to improve over the course of the season. Dominic Bajin is going to line up behind Daniel Knight with Thomas Sink lined up behind Abner Acosta. Thomas looking for a win to make it through to the round of 4. Bradley Holly is going to line up in 5th position with Brendan Chatley on his outside. Brett Adams currently lining up in 7th place, also needs a win to make it into the championship 4. Colton Lane currently on the dropout position in 8th position right now, looking to improve his times as well to get to the championship 4, with Charles Sumner in 9th and Blaine Adams rounding out your top 10.
Just outside of the top 10, starting today, is going to be Austin Hunter in 11th with Mike Richter to his outside. Then Doug Evans and Brandon Walter compose row number 8, with Baron Hilton, a pretty good run for him in qualifying, starting 15th inside of Matthew Aubrey in 16th. 17th on the grid will be Nicholas Schwartz with Patrick Cowgill outside of him. Then your final starters in the top 20, Adam Shane in 19th and Adam Zemke in 20th.
Mark Halen starting off in 21st with Jose Medina alongside him. Row 12 is going to go to Kenny Rodriguez and Ryan Traver. Row 13 starts with Brandon Sauls in 25th and Stacy Hunter 26th, with Doyle Lawrence being the first truck without a time. John LaBaff, Nicholas Hunter, and Matthew Kolnick round out your top 30. And those are the 30 trucks that are running tonight, actually.
That's a nice round number.
It very much is, Chris. Now, a couple of penalties that are being served tonight. Nicholas Hunter and Greg Corzin are going to start from the back, but I don't believe we've seen Greg tonight as we take a look with a nice run down the trucks here. Looks like Danny Cervantes is serving a 1-race suspension for receiving 3 caution points in 3 races, so he is not here tonight. And those are our penalties coming in from Phoenix. So quite a few drivers dealing with some penalties tonight, but not as many as we had last week.
Yeah, unfortunately, when you have some exciting races, sometimes they end up with less than exciting starts for some of these drivers that are parked because of penalties.
Here at Homestead, a unique aspect is that when the drivers come out there in 2 lines, the bottom line ends up going on the pit exit road at the bottom of the track. The top line ends up going onto the track following the pace car. So just one of the uniquenesses about Homestead that makes this place so exciting.
Yeah, it's kind of a design that I always thought was kind of cool, and you saw it more kind of pop up in the 90s and early 2000s when the whole track building boom caught on, but for whatever reason, they don't seem to be adding safety roads onto these tracks anymore like they used to.
I think one of those issues is that people tended to slide off of them into the grass and back onto the track oftentimes, so whether it's safer or not is still something to be determined by looking back at the history. But as we come off of turns 3 and 4, the Mustang pace car will pull away and reveal Daniel Knight as the leader of this start. He's going to wait. He's going to continue waiting for Abner Acosta along the outside. And now they get going. A good start from Abner Acosta, but an even better start from Dominic Bajin, who thought about looking to the inside, thinks better of it. Daniel Knight, a pretty wide entry to 1 and 2 as they go diving into the corner. Looks like Dominic Bajin very handy on that bottom line, trying to get power off, but Daniel Knight's going to lead them off of 1 and 2.
That outside momentum really powering Abner Acosta down the straightaway. He's now going to look to the inside of the 17 and Daniel Knight for the lead.
Acosta not caring at all that these guys are battling for a championship, and look at that, Daniel Knight way up the track there. Just couldn't carry the speed through the corner. He doesn't have that much of an edge on Abner Acosta as they head back into 1 and 2. He's going to try and get lower on the track and try and improve his chances.
You know, I was really interested in what Bradley Holly was going to do on this start. Whenever he starts a little bit further back than full, you kind of have 2 extremes with Bradley. Either he is digging right away and contending for the lead with pretty much by the close of the opening pair of laps, or he hangs out and runs a little bit further back, and so far he has not pressed the issue too much. He is working on Dominic Bajin for the 3rd position, but so far pretty calm for Bradley.
Yeah, and Chris, Daniel Knight is just burning off that right front tire up in that high lane, trying to carry speed through the corner. It's not working out for him at all. That bottom lane definitely looking better at this time. Abner Acosta starting to pull a little bit on Daniel Knight, but when they get back onto the straightaway, that outside momentum does start to pull for him. That's Bradley Holly up to that 2nd position, trying to, or actually he's right underneath Thomas Sink, or rather Dominic Bajin above him. things getting very intense up there for that top 4. Abner Acosta is going to lead once again with Daniel Knight outside of him, Dominic Magine in 3rd, and Bradley Holly in 4th on the bottom side.
You got to wonder, though, with no idea how long this run's going to be, which one of those two is going to give up first up front? I mean, you got to think battling this tight and pushing the issue like they have so far, it's got to be eating up those tires, and this could have consequences for both of those drivers later on in the run.
One of the scary things to think about for these drivers up there is that with Bradley Holly up there right now tucking into that 3rd position, he already has a win. If he goes out and wins again, Daniel Knight and Thomas Sink, who's right in behind Bradley Holly in that bottom side now, they've got to think to themselves that means that they're not secure into the championship 4 going into the final race of this season. So Daniel Knight's not going to want to give up that top position, as they still are side by side here as we're on lap 5.
And you got riding along there with Bradley Holly. He's got the best view of this battle of anybody. And in fact, he might become a participant in this here shortly.
He's definitely looking towards the middle of the track there. He's trying to diamond this corner off, but Abner Acosta, those tires already starting to wear out on those. Ooh, we've had side-by-side contact between Colton Lane and Brett Adams. Brett Adams knocked up the track just a little bit as Abner Acosta manages to get the position over Daniel Knight. Daniel's going to swap over on Abner and go to the bottom side, but there's Brett trying to recover as we have some more trucks going up underneath him. I believe that's Brendan Chatley and Austin Hunter.
Yeah, the problem with these trucks being so momentum based is you get an incident like that where you have to get out of the gas and try to recover, and it is not instantaneous. You're back on the gas and you're going. It takes a couple laps to get these trucks wound back up, and in that time you can lose a lot of spots.
With that swap over that I mentioned, Abner Acosta has ended up falling behind Daniel Knight as he took the bottom of the track and started to steam away. Bradley Holly being very conservative on the bottom of the track right now. You can see him down there just hugging that white line on exit underneath Abner Acosta. It's now side by side for 2 rows deep there for 2nd and 4th positions respectively. And look at that, Bradley Holly's actually going to back out of it and allow Abner Acosta to come down.
Well, you got to think with already being locked into the championship 4, Bradley Holly is trying to win the season championship as well. So you got to think he's going to play the smart game here. He doesn't have to push the issue and get a win to move on into the championship, but he's got to be there at the end of this race. And the way his luck has worked out, he hasn't always been able to make it to the end of these races. So he needs to take it easy here in the early part of the race so he can have a chance at winning it and taking that season championship here as well.
There's a nice 3-wide battle going on towards the middle of the pack as well. That has now sorted itself out. That was between Patrick Calga, Matthew Aubry, and Kenny Rodriguez. Up here at the lead, though, it's still very close, and Bradley Holly looking to the bottom side of Abner Acosta. Now, what you said is true for sure, Chris. But that being said, Bradley Holly, in order to gain on the points championship for the season, he has to beat Daniel Knight because Daniel Knight's currently the leader. So as we see, Abner Acosta is going to do a swap over with Bradley Holly and try and get to that bottom side. That's Thomas Sink looking on behind them. Wow, Bradley Holly taking it very deep into the corner. He's going to try and carry enough momentum through there in order to make it off the corner with enough speed. And it looks like he's going to do so. Abner Acosta having some major connection issues on that bottom side.
Well, that's definitely going to be a tough break for Abner if he does end up battling those connection demons throughout this race, because he has looked really fast all afternoon as one of the top drivers in practice as well. And once we get into maybe the next tire run, I think he could have a real threat at winning this race.
Very solid run from all these drivers so far. We've been green for 10 laps so far. It's the 11th lap on these tires that they are driving right now. And the truck's starting to get a little bit too tight to run side by side for long. Most of the battles have settled out now. We're single file all the way back down to 17th, where Mark Kalin has just made a pass on Kenny Rodriguez, or attempted to. But all these drivers starting to be a little bit nicer. But look at that, Daniel Knight way up the track. He might lose the position to Bradley Holly if he's not careful. Holly definitely takes a look to the inside. Daniel thought about blocking it off, but he's going to let Bradley take the position.
Now, these two have had a bit of a checkered history this season.
Oh, we've had a wreck? Kenny Rodriguez almost wrecked there. That was really close between him and a couple of other trucks. He's currently in 25th and falling back. Still green, though.
Meanwhile, up front, it's still Daniel Knight showing the way, but Bradley Holly beginning to take a peek to the inside at him.
And that's exactly what I was worried about with Daniel Knight carrying the speed so far into the corners when he was battling with Abner Acosta. He might just have worn out that right front tire. It's not giving the purchase that he's expecting. So you see him pushing wide out of these corners. He's actually holding up these top four at this point in the game. Abner Acosta currently tucked in behind Daniel Knight on that high side. Daniel's actually going to come down back to the bottom groove and actually block up the momentum of Bradley Holly. It's now side by side between Bradley and Abner, but look at Daniel just sliding up off the bottom of that track. He cannot stick it down there.
Yeah, I really was worried about this being an issue for these guys after battling so hard early on in the run.
Still side by side for second, and it's also side by side for the fifth position between Colton Lane and Charles Sumner back further on in this shot that you can see there. So the top four are clustered all together, and then we have a nice little gap of about a quarter of a second back to Colton Lane and Charles Sumner, who are battling for the fifth position there. You can see on screen right there. So these battles, while they broke up for a moment, it looks like some drivers struggling more with their tires than others, starting to cause these little holdups.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a variety of strategies on those tires that we're going to see play out. Some of these drivers really push the issue early on, and as a result, they're going to fade here as we get deeper into this tire run. And some guys played it smart, and we'll watch them march their way up through the field.
Riding on the nose of Thomas Sink, as you can see on this Web Hearing Center's GSRC nose cam. You can see just how much he definitely thinks he's faster than these guys. In fact, is he going to look to the bottom of Bradley Holly? No, he's going to give him a nice shot coming through the straightaway, trying to keep him underneath Abner Acosta. It's definitely going to work as they go into 1 and 2.
Yeah, when you end up in those situations and you're the lead vehicle in those bump drafting moments, a lot of the times you become kind of a passenger, whether you want to pass somebody or not. It's not always up to you at that point, as we see Bradley Holly now trying to make another pass on the 17 and Knight.
And Knight way up the track, way into the gray. He's not going to be able to carry any momentum off the corner, and that's going to give that position. In fact, he makes a little bit of contact with the outside wall. That's going to allow Abner Acosta to shoot through off of the nose of Thomas Sink. Thomas just shoving these two guys into the front of this pack. Bradley Holly and Abner Acosta. Daniel Knight falling back to fourth.
You know, it's really interesting, Adam, as the season kind of progresses, you can see the driver in Bradley Holly that's been here before as far as the championship goes. It seems like he's in that position every season, but it almost seems like the 17 and Daniel Knight maybe becomes slightly more mistake prone. It seems like he pushes his tires too much a little more often than he used to at the front part of the season. And you must maybe have to wonder if it could be just the pressure of the championship starting to get to him.
Possible. It's definitely a trend we're seeing from Daniel. Looks like Bradley Holly's starting to deal with a little bit of the same patterns. I think the truck that's in the best position as far as the tire wear is concerned in this pack is Thomas Sink. Currently on that bottom side, we're riding right in front of his Silverado at this point off of the back of Bradley Holly. And Thomas has been conserving his stuff tucked in behind these three other guys, and now he's in a position to fight for it. And he's definitely having the best of it here when it comes to the tire wear. You can see how much more speed he can carry into the corner than Abner Acosta. He's going to clear him as he goes into the corner here, and he's able to keep that truck pointed as they exit the corner and carry some good speed off. So I think Thomas Sink's in a really good position here.
Yeah, it almost feels like it wasn't so much that Thomas Sink ran down the front three trucks. It's almost like the front three trucks backed up to Thomas. And he's done a really good job of managing his tires this run and looks to be probably one of the fastest trucks on the track.
Daniel Knight's falling off of this front group. He's now 3/10 behind Abner Acosta. Can't seem to get that truck to turn at all. So Bradley Holly leads over Thomas Sink and Abner Acosta. Daniel Knight in fourth, starting to fall off. But look at this. Thomas Sink has a good run here as Bradley Holly gets a little bit tight. Is he going to look to the bottom in 3 and 4? No, he's going to back off early. Still conserving these tires here as we're 20 laps into this run.
Everyone's been pretty well behaved so far. We've just seen minor scuffles so far as we watch Thomas Sink once again gets right to the tailgate on the 184 of Holly.
He's going slow in and then pretty decently fast to the center of the corner, and he's able to power off, and that seems to be where he's gaining his advantage. There you can see it once again. He's got a nice advantage here, but once again, he'll just back off and let Bradley Holly dive it into the corner. And then he kind of just eases on the power as he goes through the center of 3 and 4 and is able to get a decent run off of the corner here. We've crossed the 1 quarter mark on our distance here, still green here on our first run.
And as we get deeper into this run, those tires are getting more and more tired. So you got to think pit stops are going to start to be creeping into these drivers' minds. Ooh, got a little bit of a moment there.
Bradley way up the track there. He just put the power down and tried to carry enough momentum through that he wouldn't get passed by Thomas Sink. It ended up working out for him. But how much has that affected his long run pace overall? Thomas Sink there carrying some more speed through the corner of 3 and 4 this time by, but can't quite manage the speed up off the corner now. It's very interesting to see how things are working. It looks like Matthew Kolnick has entered the pits. We'll keep our eyes on that. And he's our first regular pit stopper. Looks like he's just come in for regular service.
You have to wonder if maybe that'll start changing the perception of when to make a pit stop, as our top 3 are pretty much in lockstep with each other right now, Adam.
Definitely something the drivers are going to have to think about, considering that their lap times are nearly 2.5 seconds slower than they were at the start of this race. So this tight setup is really affecting their lap times when it comes to later on in these runs for sure. But look at this. Thomas Sink tucked in right underneath of Bradley Holly. He's got a decent run, but they're starting to leave Abner Acosta in the dust as well.
Again, I think a lot of that comes down to Thomas Sink. For whatever reason, Thomas doesn't want to push it and pass Bradley, but I think he is pushing Bradley to maybe keep that going a little faster. As we get further into the tire run, Thomas Sink has obviously done the superior job managing his tires, but with him pushing the 184, they're now starting to lose touch with some of the drivers that also push their tires early on in the run.
So Daniel Knight's almost a second behind Abner now. You can see Abner Acosta behind Thomas Sink in this shot here. The next truck back all the way in the distance is Daniel Knight in the 17. He's lost that momentum in that position, so he's definitely fallen off the back of these guys. Maybe he'll be the first one to decide to come into the pits. And wow, Thomas Sink very, very loose off of the corner that time by. It just snapped loose on him, and now he's got Abner Acosta going underneath him for that second position. Let's see how Thomas handled this. Is he going to use up a little bit of that tire wear, or does he have anything left at this point? He definitely takes it deep into the corner and is going to try and carry the momentum off. He's got a decent run, but how long can he keep this up?
That's probably the first time we've seen him turn a wheel wrong all race long so far, Adam. And unfortunately, looks like the tire wear may be catching up to the 48 as Abner Acosta looks like he's going to have a pretty good run off of turn number 4, but that momentum is tough to beat here.
Yeah, it seems like a shallow exit off of 4 ends up giving you better speed than the rolling exit that comes off of 4 if you're on the high line. Thomas Sink. Thomas is just going to back off a little bit and let Abner take that position because they've got a charging Bradley Holly to catch it. He's currently 0.4 of a second up ahead on the road. Daniel Knight's fallen back to a second behind and is now being caught by Austin Hunter and Brendan Chatley as well.
We're going to take a look at that battle now as we see a slew of trucks there nose to tail.
Yeah, these trucks were taking these corners at around 140 miles per hour at the beginning of this run. Now they're dropping into the high 120s through the center of these corners. These trucks really starting to lose their grip definitely here, but Bradley Holly currently out in the lead with Abner Acosta second, Thomas Sink third, Daniel Knight in fourth position with Austin Hunter in fifth, Brendan Chatley in sixth, being challenged by a charging Charles Sumner as well. But I'm most concerned about Daniel Knight. Looks like he's definitely falling back into the clutches of Austin Hunter here in the 312. 312 is going to dive to the bottom of the track.
I really think it comes down to Daniel Knight just pushing his tires too much in the opening laps. And with this long green flag run that we've had to start this race off, he unfortunately hasn't had any time to take it easy and recover.
So 28 laps complete, coming into 29 laps complete on this race. Daniel Knight falling now to Austin Hunter, who is able to complete that pass. Daniel back to fifth position. And tucked in behind them is Brendan Chatley and Charles Sumner. Charles Sumner He's currently up 2 positions from his starting position and trying to challenge Brendan Chatley. He's really good through 3 and 4, not quite as good through 1 and 2.
Yeah, when you look at this track, it looks like it's pretty much identical from end to end. But there are some subtle differences, especially in turns 3 and 4, where you have to manage a little bit of the quirks of the track surface settling. It can be a little more bumpy and a little more harder to approach. So if you can master 3 and 4, I think you're a little bit better off than if you're giving up something in 1 and 2. But preferably, you'd be able to manage it all the way around.
I'd like to give an update on the number 23 truck of Brett Adams. The championship woes just continue for Brett. Currently back in the 15th position after starting up in the top 5. He has just been struggling more and more in that number 23 truck. And just that little bit of contact he had early on looks like it's really hurt him on his pace. And he's now just trying to struggle to hang on to the top 15 here. So Brett Adams is looking for a win to make it into the championship 4. Doesn't look like he quite has the truck to get there at this stage in the race.
And looks like we have some action going on up towards the front of the field. Going to take a look here.
Yeah, that was Abner Acosta. He was inside of Bradley Holly through 1 and 2, but Bradley was able to carry the speed through. Abner definitely looking for an opportunity to get by. The question is how assertive is he going to be about that? Bradley Holly, though, his right front is completely gone. Abner Acosta's is pretty tired as well. All these truck drivers just hanging on, waiting for their pit stop at this stage in the game. You don't want to come too early, because if you do come too early, then you end up running into the problem where you might end up with a truck that has absolutely nothing left towards the end of the race, especially if you stay green the whole way.
Yeah, without the luck of a caution kind of directing your strategy, these green flag pit stops are really essential to nail at just the right time. And one little mistake could ruin your race. So everyone a little trepidatious about getting these green flag pit stops in.
Another reason to be trepidatious, a trek down pit lane takes almost 40 seconds, including your pit stop, for 4 tires and fuel, and that is over a lap. So that means if you take a pit stop, you will be a lap behind, and if the caution comes out then, you get trapped in this situation where the drivers ahead get to take a free pit stop, and you end up stacking in behind them. So things start to get a little bit problematic when that becomes the case. Abner Acosta with a decent run through 3 and 4. Bradley Holly looking like his truck's actually starting to get loose at this stage in the race. So the tire's definitely starting to wear off for these two drivers as they continue to battle for the lead.
Yeah, you got to think the deeper into this run and the more worn those tires get, these trucks will basically turn into a cow on roller skates.
So there's an update on a couple of our championship runners. Charles Sumner currently up there in the 7th position, up ahead of Brandon Walter. That should be enough positions to improve him to be the last truck that would make it into the championship 4 on points. But he's going to have to hold that position throughout the rest of this race, as Brandon Walter has been falling back throughout, currently down in 15th. Brett Adams, as we said before, in 17th position, still not doing super great for himself at this stage in the race. And we have Bradley Holly and Thomas Sink 1st and 3rd. Daniel Knight currently in 5th. Those are our top 3 in the championship 8 in the round of 8 right now. So all of them currently in good positions to transfer in.
I feel like right now, Adam, we're all just holding our breath waiting for those pit stops to start and who's going to make the move first.
Lap truck of Ryan Traver ends up going into the pits. He's already a lap down, so he'll go 2 laps down after that pit stop. That's for regular service himself. So it looks like Abner Acosta's challenge for the lead has taken a pause for this moment. He's not really pushing Bradley Holly that hard at this moment. We're going to take a look at the 9th place battle. This is between Dominic Bajin and Doug Evans. Dominic has been falling back ever since the beginning of this race when he was up there in that big battle for the top 5. And he's really starting to fall off. You can see how tight his truck's getting. Doug Evans has been saving his stuff, currently up 3 positions from his starting spot as he gets underneath Dominic Bajin here. Doug doing a good job of conserving his equipment and trying to make these passes later on in the run.
And it really seems like that's been the magic for some of these drivers to make big moves through the field. is those guys that have the quiet, consistent races where they save their equipment early on, and then wouldn't you know it, they're there at the end.
And it all depends on the setup they also get. Remember that these guys are running fixed setups, so everyone is dealing with the same conditions. So how you manage the tires that you are given is definitely a big part about of how you end up doing in these races. We see Doug Evans unable to get past Dominic in that particular instance. We'll see whether or not he tries a different method here. Looks like Brett Adams will be our first taker from that lead group, or at least he was in that lead group early on, fell down to 17th, but he's come into the pits for 4 tires and fuel at this stage in the race.
Well, you got to think with him needing a good run to keep his championship hopes alive, you're not going to make up any ground by doing the exact same thing as everybody else. So it looks like he's going to try the undercut here and beat everybody to pit road, and hopefully it works out and maybe helps him get back for the championship mix.
Brett Adams' fastest lap is a 32.754. So we'll be looking to compare his times against that as he gets back down on track. Back up to the front, Bradley Hawley leads Abner Acosta by nearly 4/10. Thomas Sink 7/10 behind him. Austin Hunter about a second back there, and then Daniel Knight has fallen 2 seconds back of Austin Hunter. And Daniel Knight's into the pits.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see him be one of the early takers. Obviously, those tires on his truck were very unhappy, so probably wants to get that set off and some fresh rubber on that truck as quick as possible.
Absolutely, but you got to remember that these drivers who are taking their pit stops early will have less fresh tires towards the end of the race, which could definitely affect them. So, as Daniel Knight hits his box very cleanly, it's the first box considering he got that pole position. Currently having fallen back to the 5th position on track before coming into this pit stop, Bradley Hawley and Abner Acosta go by, so he will be a lap down. So as we start to take these pit stops, as we see some more drivers come in, Mike Richter and Dominic Bagine, we're going to have to keep our eyes out for a caution because that could definitely change the game for these drivers.
Exactly, Adam. There's... Oh, and look at that.
And there it is. Still not a caution quite yet. Oh, and fortunately he takes a tow, so that's actually going to spare everybody, but that was very scary. That was Brandon Sauls. But here we come. The leader's into pit lane. Ooh, Bradley Hawley very close to spinning out. Manages to save it.
Yeah, that is a really tricky entrance to pit road here at Homestead. You almost saw it reach out and bite Bradley Hawley there.
So Thomas Sink follows him into the pit lane, and almost everybody's come in at this point. Abner Acosta still out there running, as well as Austin Hunter, Jose Medina, and Adam Zemke. But pretty much everybody else has come in except for Blaine Adams, so almost everyone into the pits. Now here's the interesting part. Daniel Knight just coming through 3 and 4 right now. Thomas Sink and Bradley Hawley having hit their pit boxes. I think Daniel's going to be quite a bit behind these guys.
Yeah, it looks like you're right there, Adam.
But look at this. Bradley Hawley's actually getting held up on the pit lane exit. This could be really interesting. He's being held up by Nicholas Hunter, a lap truck. So unable to get the speed down. And here comes Daniel Knight having closed that gap. And look at this. Daniel Knight's back in the fight.
Well, we mentioned those green flag pit stops needed to be perfect. And unfortunately, for that to be perfect, it's got to be entrance and exit that you nail. And the exit did not go Bradley Hawley's way.
That's Abner Acosta on the bottom of the screen as he whips by. So Daniel Knight and Bradley Hawley way ahead of Abner. So that undercut definitely working out. But Daniel's going to have to manage his tires considering he has 2 lap older tires than Bradley Hawley. So at this stage in the race, he probably doesn't want to be pushing Hawley that hard considering the fact that he doesn't want to lose that right front again like he did on his first run. We'll see how he manages it here. Nicholas Hunter currently on the inside. That's Thomas Sink, who almost hit the outside wall coming off a 4. He's going to slide up there into the position ahead of them. These guys are provisionally 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3 on track as Blaine Adams still has yet to pit.
Yeah, you would think logic would dictate that the 17 would take a little easy here in the early laps on the fresh tires.
But don't expect Thomas Sink to do that, though, Chris, because he's going to try and pressure Daniel Knight into a mistake.
That's right, and I think Thomas Sink may have gone the other extreme in that first run. I almost say he was possibly too conservative, and by the time he did start to push it, his tires had worn out just naturally on their own, from the laps he had put in, and he didn't have the rubber left once he did try to make a move. So I think we have 2 drivers that are competing for provisional second and third right now that ran pretty much opposite strategies on the first run and had opposite problems.
There you saw a nice push from Thomas Sink into 3 and 4, pushing Daniel Knight up the track. Now Thomas Sink gets the overlap, and he's on the door of Daniel Knight. He's going to look to the bottom of the track here as they go through 1 and 2. Jose Medina, a lapped truck, is up ahead. They will catch him as they go into 3 and 4. That will definitely help define this particular battle. Jose's going to go to the bottom of the track. This could hold up Thomas Sink if he's not careful. Jose's actually going to take to the escape road, escaping this battle. They're still going to be side by side as they go through 3 and 4.
You got to think Bradley Holly pretty happy to see Knight and Sink side by side like that, because it does make his job a little bit easier because they're not fighting him when they're fighting each other.
That being said, these 2 guys behind him still need wins in order to make it into the championship 4. Oh, look at this. Thomas Sink getting tight as he exits 1 and 2, almost pushing Daniel Knight into the top side wall. These 2 guys behind Bradley Holly are hungry for that win. Bradley's going to have to be careful that if any of them clear each other, they're going to be right on his rear bumper. Look at this. Daniel Knight way deep into the exit of the corner. Almost loses it there. It almost snaps loose on him. He might be burning off his tires again, Chris.
Yeah, unfortunately, it'd be a really tough lesson to learn the hard way if he doesn't maybe calm it down a little bit here and let those tires cool off.
He did. He backed it off in 1 and 2 to try to give Thomas Sink a little bit of a run there. But look at this. He's going to look to the bottom side once again in 3 and 4. Can he hold it there on the bottom side? Thomas Sink giving him the room. It's going to make a little bit of contact almost with Thomas Sink. He had to back out of it. This frees up Thomas Sink to go fight with Bradley Holly for the lead.
And that could cost Daniel Knight quite a bit, as he had to get out of it and give up some of that momentum. So look at him to possibly lose a lot of ground to your top 2 here.
Thomas Sink, though, is definitely pushing. He's trying to get up to the back bumper of Bradley Holly. We're on lap 50 of 85 at this stage in the game. So just over a quarter of the race left to go for these drivers as they come off. We're going to take a look at the next group back, actually. This is led by Charles Sumner. He's got Brendan Chadley and Austin Hunter tucked in behind him. They're all trying to catch one another to battle for that top 5 position for sure.
Charles Sumner, one of those drivers that's a really quiet, consistent guy out there. Isn't usually competing for the lead, but you'll see him towards the middle of that top 5, middle towards the back of the top 5, and he just runs quiet, consistent races, and that's why he's one of those drivers that still has a chance in the championship, because he's a guy that takes care of his equipment and usually does a pretty solid job putting in consistent finishes.
That was the 312 of Austin Hunter diving underneath Brendan Chadley to take away that 6th position. So Austin Hunter definitely on a charge himself, trying to get up there and pass Charles Sumner.
Yeah, look at the 312 there, making a move to the inside of Sumner as they head off into turn number 3. He's all the way down at that white line, and that takes a lot to get those trucks to turn down there. And you can see the momentum on the outside really allows the 98 to pull back even with them as they make it back to turn 1.
You got to remember, the 312 has 2-lap younger tires than these guys, and that seems to be making a big amount of difference here as he clears him pretty easily out of 1 and 2. Sumner's going to back out of that one and let Austin Hunter go just a little bit here as they go through 3 and 4, riding on the ButtKicker dash cam as Charles Sumner looking on to the back of the 312 of Austin Hunter, who now sits in the 5th position. Abner Acosta has made up a little bit of ground to the top 2, thus Daniel Knight is continuing to fall back actually. Very interesting here with Daniel Knight just unable to keep the pace of the leaders right now.
Yeah, that was a real costly mistake when Daniel Knight had to get out of it there. I think he struggled to get the momentum built back up, and I think he was a little too aggressive on his tires early in the run again. this is pretty much a mirror image of what he dealt with in that first run.
Abner being able to clear Daniels. Daniels going to look to the bottom of Abner. I think Abner is probably going to just play it easy with Daniel, considering he knows that Daniel's tires are out. Ryan Traver sitting in the middle of the track right up ahead of them. He's actually going to go to the high side. This might hold up this battle. Yeah, Daniel Knight had to back out of it once again, as Abner Acosta had to take a lower line than he wanted to avoid getting into Traver as they exited 3 and 4.
You got to think when Abner Acosta has been right up there in the mix throughout this race, and honestly, I really thought him staying out late in that that first pit stop was going to hurt him a lot more. But you see, having those extra few laps on the old tires has really allowed him to have pretty good speed here in the second run.
Was the first pit stop, but it may very well be the last, Chris, as we look once again at the lead. Thomas Sink chasing down Bradley Holly. Bradley has just been very consistent up there in that top spot. Just able to keep that clean air on that truck and go fast. Thomas has not been able to put a challenge to Bradley yet, has not been able to get to his inside, hasn't been able to make him make a mistake or anything. Bradley Holly just very stoutly in the lead of this race as they come out of 3 and 4. They will cross the line and complete their 57th lap out of 85.
Gotta say, I'm really impressed, as I usually am, with this PRL field. These guys have done a great job here at Homestead to keep this race clean and really work through a setup that's probably not the most ideal to drive. And really, we've had minimal issues given given how difficult these trucks can be to drive today.
We saw a lot of exit of 3 and 4 contact with the wall in practice, and quite frankly, we haven't seen much of that so far tonight. So these drivers doing a good job of keeping a handle on that plowing front end of this truck as it exits the corner. But it looks like Thomas Sink's challenge to Bradley Holly may be fading here as he's dropped back to about a half a second now behind Bradley. Down to 14th here, we're taking a look at Nicholas Schwartz and Adam Zemke as they're battling for that 14th position. Adam Zemke was knocked out of the championship, the year-long championship last round in the round of 12, didn't make it onto the round of 8, and currently battling with Nicholas Schwartz. Schwartz trying to hold the middle of the track there and prevent Zemke from getting a run on him, but Zemke has a decent run. He's going to stay on the outside and force Schwartz to go low. Let's see whether or not he can get alongside as they go through the corner. Schwartz is going to take it deep through 1 and 2. Zemke looking to do the over-under.
Yeah, I'm interested to see Zemke make this move here as they head off towards turn number 3. And that big blue number 57 truck looks like he's going to keep in lockstep behind the 44, but building up that momentum and maybe see a move here shortly.
Yeah, unfortunately, he just got a little bit too tight on the exit of 3 and 4 and had to back out of it. So Zemke's challenge is going to have to wait for another couple of laps until he can catch back up to the back of Schwartz. Schwartz is actually catching up to the back of Brett Adams, though. Brett Adams was able to improve his position by a couple positions through the pit stop cycle, currently up in 13th, but he's currently about 2 seconds behind Doug Evans up ahead of him and continuing to fall backwards. And Thomas Sink has definitely fallen off the back of Bradley Holly at this point. Bradley's going to work his way around Jose Medina. And Abner Acosta is actually catching up to the back of Thomas Sink for that second position. But, I mean, Chris, unless Abner has a lot more in the tank than we're expecting, I don't know if anybody can catch Bradley Holly today.
Yeah, Bradley Holly has just been so consistent today. Obviously very fast. And you got to think Thomas Sink and Abner Acosta, and definitely Daniel Knight, are praying we get a caution at some point to at least shake things up and give him a chance to take another shot at the 184.
I'm sure Bradley Holly is very much hoping that does not happen, considering his luck with late race cautions this season, having been wrecked out of the lead twice in that situation. But here comes Abner Acosta with a nice move there on Thomas Sink. He just carried more speed through 3 and 4. He's looking to the bottom side there of Thomas Sink as they go through 1 and 2. Still side by side. It looks like Abner's going to clear him.
Well, maybe there is a bit more in the tank for that 5 machine.
So Abner Acosta is now a second behind Bradley Holly. We'll have to keep track of the lap times. Last lap for Abner was a 32.680 to Bradley Holly. A 34.150 to Bradley Holly's 34.176. So a little bit faster. I'm not sure whether it's going to be fast enough.
You know, Adam, before we do these races every week, I do like to hop on the internet and do some perusing of the local areas. And Homestead, Florida is obviously near the Florida Everglades. And one of the top attractions in Florida Everglades is a place called Everglades Holiday Park. And I don't know what exactly they do there, but their Yelp review has a picture of a guy wearing an alligator as a scarf.
I mean, I'd be interested to see that for sure. Maybe take a step, a couple miles away here once we're done with this race and see how that goes for sure. Nice pass going on right now for 14th between Brett Adams and Mark Kalin as Brett continues to fall in that number 23 truck. Mark Kalin improving his position. He's up 6 spots from his starting position of 21st and now continues to push forward.
Yeah, Mark Kalin has definitely been the guy wearing an alligator as a scarf of this race, making his way up through the field with a pretty solid run here today.
Keeping our cameras here on Abner Acosta, he has definitely closed the gap on Bradley Holly. It's down to 0.7 of a second. Now we are still with about 17 laps to go in this race. So if Abner can keep that pace up, he will reach the back of Bradley Holly with about 10 to go. Now the question is, does he have enough juice in the tank to try and pass Bradley? We've seen how stout Bradley's defense has definitely been. We're going to take a look at Daniel Knight and Austin Hunter because Daniel, he's not doing so hot.
Yeah, I'd say of all the animals that Daniel Knight might be wearing as a scarf, there's definitely not an alligator in this race.
Daniel Knight's probably just hoping that the scarf will keep him warm as he rides home tonight, as he tries to struggle to keep that truck turning left. It just wants to go straight in the corners. You can see just how high he goes on the exit of 3-4. It makes contact with the wall. Oh, contact with the 312. They both managed to keep it together, but that was almost a gigantic accident and would have brought out the caution and possibly dropped Daniel Knight out of this race. Daniel with major right front damage and major left rear damage as well. Here's the replay.
Yeah, you can see he just pancakes the wall there, and as he loses control down the track, the 312, wrong place, wrong time, and Hunter, unfortunately, is going to have some aerodynamic damage, and you can see heavy damage to the rear deck lid on that 17 machine. Is it a deck lid on a truck? Or is that just like a car thing?
No, that's a deck lid for sure. I mean, I guess you could say it's a bed lid for a truck, but yeah, deck lid definitely counts. Is the 312 able to keep going with that right front damage that he has now? Still in 4th position, but we need to go back to the lead because Abner Acosta, he's almost there.
I gotta say, I did not think this was going to be possible without the aid of a caution, but Abner apparently has saved just enough to make a run at him. But catching Bradley Holly is one thing, Adam. Passing him is a whole different set of challenges.
1 lap newer tires for Abner Acosta, and he is right there. He closed that 0.3 of a second gap down to 1/10 in just 2 turns. Now, so I think he's like a dog that's caught a car. Now that he's caught Bradley, now what does he do with him? Bradley really struggling on corner exit, though. Abner Acosta smells blood in the water. He ducks down to the bottom side. Bradley very strong on the high side we've seen today, and he definitely commands his space. You can see him pressuring Abner Acosta to stay down on that lower groove, but Abner coming up off the corner a little bit is going to maintain his speed. They're going to be side by side, even on speed as they go into 3 and 4. Bradley Holly trying to come back down onto the track onto his preferred line, but Abner Acosta holding his line, forcing Bradley Holly high. Let's see how they exit the corner. Bradley a little bit loose on the exit. Abner Acosta holding strong. Here we go, side by side. Abner Acosta leads this race.
These are two drivers that are both trying to assert their will right now. And so far, Abner Acosta surprisingly winning out. He's just about clear of the 184 as they come off the corner. He's going to pull up and get in front of the 184. Now Holly with the crossover. Acosta throws a block. Now they're going to swap spots on the track. It's Acosta on the outside and the 184 digging on the bottom.
Acosta a little bit too high on the entrance of the corner. 184 is going to use all that space that Acosta gave him, but Acosta with a great run off of the corner is able to pull on Bradley Holly on the straight. He's going to dive it down to the bottom of the track here on the entry of 1 and 2. Nice move there. Bradley tries to get to his rear bumper to move him. Can't quite do so. Bradley starting to push a little bit on the exit. He's going to be able to keep it out of the wall, but move Abner Acosta into that top spot.
Adam, you and I have done a ton of races for the PRL Truck Series. I have never seen anybody assert their will on Bradley Holly like we just saw Abner Acosta do.
It was a great move from Abner to just keep Bradley Holly up in that higher line where it's even harder to turn that truck around as we look at Abner looking out the back window towards Bradley Holly behind. Bradley's still trying to get there, but you got to remember, Bradley's got to think bigger picture. All of his championship competitors are behind him at this point, even in the season-long championship. So he doesn't have to win against Abner Acosta here to gain points on these guys. He doesn't have to take that top spot. Second place is good enough for the long term.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those pick your battles kind of moments. Bradley Holly pushed the issue a couple times earlier in the season, and it definitely bit him. But now he's got to think, how bad does he want the win and how bad does he want to see the championship?
One thing Daniel Knight needs to be thinking himself is how bad does he want 5th position, because Charles Sumner is right on his rear bumper for that spot for sure, as Daniel Knight trying to hold off his own championship, starting to bleed away just a little bit here. There's Daniel Knight trying to hold off Charles Sumner. Charles definitely struggling with his turn in as well. Let's see whether he looks to the bottom side of Daniel Knight in 3 and 4. No, he stays in line. That's Austin Hunter just up ahead of them as well.
You got to think Thomas Sink there, an island on his own, just about in 3rd spot as we head back up front. Bradley Holly has closed that gap back down, Adam.
Let's see whether or not he can get anything done, but those one lap fresher tires seem to be giving Abner Acosta enough momentum. Now we're closing in on the closing laps. We are underneath 10 laps to go at this point in the race. Bradley Holly maybe thinking about possibly moving Abner Acosta for the lead, but that's a huge risk you take at a 1.5 mile track where the truck is tight, because if he gets loose and starts to slide into you, you can see just how much he's trying to close the gap on the entry of 1 and 2.
You'll be getting to come up on lap traffic. How they negotiate these trucks is going to play a huge role in how the rest of this race goes.
Heartache for Brett Adams as he's getting passed by the leaders here. The driver needing a win to make it into the championship 4, and he's going to end up a lap behind the leaders as they streak by him. But Abner Acosta leading Bradley Holly by just 2/10 as they come down to the line, entering lap 79.
You know, surprisingly, for the amount of green flag laps we've had today, which was all of them so far, still 19 trucks on the lead, or 18 trucks on the lead lap, Adam, which again I think is a huge testament to the quality of the field we have here today.
Here's Stacy Hunter is going to stay on the high side. This is going to compromise Bradley Holly's exit from 3 and 4. Bradley's going to try and keep the momentum going, but has to back out of it in order to not run into Stacy. Stacy still staying to the high side, doing his job to stay out of the way of these leaders, but still affected Bradley Holly's exit of 3 and 4, drops him back a 10th. As they run, Abner Acosta ahead of Bradley Holly. Thomas Sink nearly 5 seconds back in 3rd. Austin Hunter another 5.5 back to 4th. He's got Daniel Knight for company, as well as Charles Sumner and Brendan Chatley. Daniel Knight still hanging on to that 5th position. He's going to have to hope that's good enough.
Yeah, Daniel Knight's got to do whatever he can to try to squeeze anything resembling a good finish out of this race as he watches Bradley Holly contend for the win.
You see Dana Knight with the Tropicana machine and Charles Sumner in behind him. That's Austin Hunter up ahead of him, but we're going to go back to the lead here as they are on 5 to go, coming to 4 to go this time by. Bradley Holly is coming back to the back of Abner Acosta. Let's see how he's going to play this one.
Yeah, you know Bradley wants to make a move. You see him closing in there, but he also runs the risk of making a move too early and giving Abner a chance to come back at him.
Yeah, with a setup like this one that they have on these trucks tonight, it is definitely a chess game up here for the lead. Not something that's going to be achieved by brute force alone. You're going to have to plan your move and plan the time you want to do it. Because if he's not careful, Abner Acosta will be able to get back to the back of him. And then Abner can just make the same move to Bradley that Bradley wants to make to Abner just a couple laps later and possibly take the win.
Exactly. This is definitely a timing is everything kind of moment.
Exit 1 and 2. Bradley Holly just trying to figure out a way to get to the back bumper of Acosta. That tightness starting to develop and to snap loose for Bradley Holly. We saw it when Abner Acosta made the move on Bradley. It looked like Bradley was starting to get loose on the exit of the corners, but look at this. Bradley Holly very strong on the exit of 3 and 4 here. In the draft, he may be able to get to the back of Abner Acosta as they go into 1 and 2. There it is. Oh, he moves him and does more than move him. He nearly wrecks him into the corner.
But Bradley backs out of it, lets Abner gather it back up.
I'm sure Abner's sweating underneath his fire suit at this point in the game, but how much tires does Abner have left after that gigantic slide through 1 and 2? Still a couple laps left to go. We're coming around to the white flag this time by. Is that Bradley's move done? Is he just going to back off and let Abner take it, or is he going to try one more time?
He's going to need a pretty good run here. It looks like he's losing ground through 1 and 2, Adam.
But Abner Acosta, his front right tire definitely crying a little bit here on the exit of the corner. Bradley Holly gaining a little bit through on the back straight, but he's not close enough for 3 and 4. He hits the outside wall actually as he enters 3 and 4. Bradley Holly trying to carry more speed through the corner, can't quite do it. He's up into the gray, he's up into the gravel, he gets a little bit loose. It's going to be Abner Acosta who takes the win here at Homestead-Miami. Bradley Holly will take second.
Well, Holly definitely gave it all he had on that finish there as the rest of the field comes across the line at him.
He definitely did. He moved Abner Acosta for sure, and he might have wanted to take that position had it been the next lap, but considering it was 2 laps to go, he let Abner gather it back up. But Abner Acosta takes the late pit stop and ends up passing Bradley Holly with just over 5 to go and is able to take the win here today at Homestead-Miami. Well, after that great race, we're going to take a short break here on the GSRC, but don't go anywhere. We'll have the unofficial race results as well as a couple driver interviews for you. So don't go anywhere. You're not going to want to miss this. Welcome back to the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series, sponsored by WEBB Hearing Centers here on the GSRC. A very interesting race we had today. Green from the drop of the flag all the way to the checkered. Just one pit stop for all these drivers, and Abner Acosta took the latest pit stop when it came to the leaders and ended up passing Bradley Holly in the closing laps of the race and to hang on for the win. Bradley Holly just 3/10 back, got to the back of Abner, 2 laps to go, but Abner managed to hang on to it, and Bradley Holly coming home in second. Thomas Sink, a great third position, but 7.5 back of the leader. Austin Hunter came home in fourth after he and Daniel Knight almost had a gigantic moment coming off of 3 and 4 with about 20 to go. Daniel Knight hanging on to that 5th position over Charles Summer, who challenged him for it on the final laps. Brendan Chatley came home in 7th with Dominic Pagine dropping back to 8th. Mike Richter comes home in 9th today, and Colton Lane a solid top 10.
Just outside the top 10 was Doug Evans with a quietly consistent 11th place finish. Adam Zemke came home in 12th with Brandon Walter lucky number 13 today. Baron Hilton came home with a strong 14th place run over Nicholas Schwartz. Adam Shane was 16th with Mark Kalin last truck on the lead lap. Stacy Hunter first truck 1 lap down over Kenny Rodriguez, and John Labath completing your top 20.
Brett Adams, not the day he wanted today, finishing in 21st, going into a do-or-die scenario next week at Darlington. He'll need to win in order to make it into the championship 4. Doyle Lawrence comes home in 22nd with Matthew Aubry in 23rd. Nicholas Hunter, the first truck, 3 laps down in 24th, with Matthew Kolonik having some trouble early on in the race, coming home in 25th. Ryan Traver 26th, Jose Medina 27th, Patrick Calgill, Blaine Adams, and Brandon Sauls round out your 30 trucks tonight. Great finish tonight from everybody, but a fantastic finish from Abner Acosta. Abner, what was it that made you make the decision to take that late pit stop?
I just wanted to. Hey, good night. Sorry. I just wanted to pit ahead of Bradley a little bit, just so I would have maybe at the end a little bit more tires, and I guess it paid off. I think I was like maybe 2-3 laps ahead of him that I pitted, but when I came out, I obviously came out like 2 seconds back, and I was able to just eventually catch up and be able to fight him at the end.
Yeah, definitely a great fight between you and Bradley. It was awesome to see both of you jockeying for the lane that you wanted, with him 1 lap holding you down lower than you wanted to go, and then this next lap by, you held him a little bit in a higher lane. What do you think it is between the two of you when it came to that, like, respect? How much do you respect Bradley when it comes to battling side by side?
Yeah, I respect them. I mean, I'm fairly new to Oval, I guess. I've raced 1 season before. I know him and Richard and all those guys are like, the top of this league. So, I mean, I try to race everybody as clean as possible. But yeah, every time I'm ahead, you're usually racing Bradley, Daniel, or Richard. So, since that's gonna happen often, you want to make sure you just battle safely and with respect for sure.
And next week we head over to Darlington. What do you think about that track and this combination with the trucks?
I like Darlington. Obviously, it's a tough track with the with hitting the wall all the time, or just being cautious and hitting it and messing up your race. But I'll definitely be able to put in some practice and hopefully maybe get another win.
Well, Abner, before we let you go, is there anyone you want to thank for your win today?
Yeah, I want to thank PRL for the league. You guys are GSRC, and everybody that's watching, and my team, Level Motorsports. Thank you.
That was Abner Acosta, our winner tonight, and it looks like Chris Phobie has caught up with Bradley Holly, who finished second.
Well, Bradley, a pretty solid points day and a fun little battle there with Abner. That had to be a blast out there racing like that.
Oh yeah, it definitely was. It looks like the overcut today worked.
Now, with you and Abner, it was a great sportsman-like move there when you guys got a little bit of contact there, and you were able to let Abner gather it back up. Was that one of those moments where you think a win would be nice, but you don't want to win that way?
Oh, for sure. I was just trying to be a little aggressive and got a little too aggressive on the brakes and ended up tapping him. That was the last thing I wanted to do. So I let him gather it up, and I didn't try to pass him because that wouldn't have felt like a good win to me.
Now, Bradley, we're heading to Darlington next week, and that's a pretty different beast what we have here in Homestead. What are your thoughts on the lady in black?
Oh, I love her. Just gotta try to keep from getting a Darlington stripe and keep it up in the top 5.
Right. Anybody you want to thank to help make today possible for you?
I like to thank the Waterback guys for practicing week in, week out, trying to figure out what we need to do. North Star Title for sponsoring me this season. WEBB's Hearing for sponsoring the series, and you guys for broadcasting us week in and week out.
Well, thank you, Bradley. That was Bradley Holly, our runner-up finisher today, and Adam, I believe you're catching up with our third place finisher.
Yeah, Thomas, I'm sure you were looking for that win today to get into the championship 4, but a third place finish is great nonetheless. But when you came out tucked in behind Bradley Holly, what do you think it was that made the difference between battling for the win at the end of this race and coming home in third?
Tire management. This new tire model seems to be just everything. If you go a little too hard, get them a little too hot, it just seems to knock off the speed quite a bit.
And when you were coming to pit lane, I mean, this pit lane entry is so difficult. How was it that you were able to gain so much time on Bradley coming to pit lane this time?
Actually, I was being conservative. I knew in practice that if I came in a little too hard, the rear end would tend to swung. So when I came in, I tried to back it down about 5 miles an hour and get on the brakes even harder than normal.
And with it going green the whole way, how difficult was it to keep these trucks out of that outside wall with how tight the setup was today?
Yeah, it was pretty difficult. Traditionally, Homestead, you run around the top, you rip the top all the way around, and I don't know what they did with the setup, but it swung completely 360 on us, so we ended up running what seemed to be the bottom and kind of float up off the end. And then once you got some heat in the front tires, it just pushed the whole way around off the corner.
Well, Thomas, looking for another win next week at Darlington. What are your thoughts heading into this final round of 8?
Pretty optimistic. I've run well at Darlington before. I believe with this finish, it locks me into the final 4. So gonna go out and just have fun this time.
Well, that was our third place finisher, Thomas Sink. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you guys.
And looks like Chris has caught up with our fourth place finisher, Austin Hunter.
Well, Austin, definitely a solid run for you today. Truck looked bad fast all day long from practice through the race. Tell us about your ride.
Man, I had a great rescue racing machine tonight. I definitely needed the long run here, so the green flag laps really helped me. I tend to be pretty good on the long run compared to the short run, so I was pretty happy it stayed green.
All right, now you and Daniel Knight made a little bit of contact there early on, and that was just a tremendous save for you. And were you thinking maybe might be race over for you at that point, or was it kind of inspiration to keep digging?
Oh, no, I definitely thought it was race over, final 4 shot over. I thought that was everything. I was just lucky it wasn't as bad as it was, and took me a couple laps to get back into the groove of things. But once I did, I was able to pull a little bit of gap back on them.
Austin, once again, congratulations on a good run, and anybody you want to thank to help make today possible for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Want to thank you guys for such a fantastic broadcast. PRL, established traffic control, camo rescue. We donate money to local animal shelters, and you can help us out at rescue-racing.com. I want to make sure I thank my wife, Emily, my parents, Ron and Randy, are watching, and tomorrow's my son's first birthday, so definitely want to make sure I give a shout out to my son, Tatum.
All right, well, thanks again for joining us, Austin. Congratulations on a top 4 run.
Thank you, guys.
And that's going to take us out with our final interview. Happy birthday to Tatum from all of us at the GSRC as well. Great to hear Austin Hunter coming home with that 4th position today. But we also want to give a thank you to the Precision Racing League for bringing us back for another season, and a big thank you to their season sponsor, WEBB Hearing Centers. Make sure to visit them at the link in the description, and the ButtKicker, for sponsoring the entire league this season. You can see their link in the description as well. We also want to give a thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts, which are listed here on your screen. As always, many thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our bumpin' music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team tonight, Chris, Sean, and Dougie. If you want to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find them at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. And if you'd like to support the channel, go check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. That link is in the description below as well. If you want to see more racing action, hit that big red subscribe button as well so you don't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. And don't go anywhere. Lionheart IndyCar Series is coming up in a couple of minutes here with Bill Soup Zahn and the legendary Richie Hearn. You're not going to want to miss that. But next for these guys is going to be Darlington, as we mentioned, the final round of the round of 8. That's going to be next week, November 18th, 8:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You're not going to want to miss that one. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on our screen, so go check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until then, we hope you've enjoyed joining us for the race tonight as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you, and we hope to see you back on our channel soon. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.